So this is where we got up to on the last video when I was completing the, whatever you call this, they call it a tab. So basically, unless you're using a fabric that you can put wrong side, glue wrong sides together and then sewn round, something like this, which doesn't fray, then I want, it's a bit thinner than what it should be on the pattern, but I want, I sewed it right sides together, then pulled it through and pressed. So now we have to put it on the back, halfway in the middle, which you should still have your line. If not, make another one at the top to where the middle is, put it centrally across and then baste it in, and make sure that you put it higher so that when you do all your, it secures it better when you put your top bit on. So, and these, I'll show you what I did on the back with these on the front as well. So just baste it in 1/8 of an inch. No need to stop and start. Could have had a, I did have a wide stitch on. So I'm putting it back down to 2.5. And that's basted ready. So the next stage is so that's it sewn on, secured and basted at 1/8 of an inch, and you can either do it now or before. I did mine now. This is an on the pattern does actually give you a cross of where to put this press stud or the stud or anorak stud, whatever you want to call it. And obviously then when that goes over to the front side of the bag, you'll have the male counterpart for it to clip into. So you want the pretty side on this side. So this next bit is the other base in the contrasting fabric they've had, and again just right sides together, 1/4 inch seam and press. Whatever you did on the other side, you on the front, then you do to the back. So once I've pressed it, on my front I did a 1/4 inch seam and a 1/8 of an inch, so I did the 2 lines, so I've repeated that on this one. So this is the bit where we put the handle and the top outer trim, and we have to make sandwiches. 5 3/8 for measuring it in, the same as the front, which obviously comes above the zip, so it's in the right place. And obviously then where this is concerned, make sure it's in a straight line and pin so you can keep it straight. Keep them all straight as possible, and then 1/4 inch seam all the way across. Right, so we need to press, and whatever we did on the front we do this side, and if I remember right, not sure if you do it with this, I'll have to have a look. I assume that you have to do it with that now all the way, and then pin it so it stays in a straight line, and then I said I was going to keep it down, I think, if I remember right, but I will check my bag at the front. So I've checked the front of the bag, and my seam allowance, I was pressing my seam, keeping it down, and at 1/8 of an inch. So there you are. Now, because I made the, I put studs on just under the handles on the last one, and the studs didn't go in right. If you take the studs out, then you've got holes in your fabric. Well, to get out of that problem, what I did is I matched the shape of this and did the plastic, I forgot what you call this, PVC, whatever, and did the shape so I can pop that doesn't fray. So basically I'm just going to stitch them on in that position to match up with this, and you can't pin them, so I need to glue them down first. So there you go, that's me covering up a mistake on the front, and I actually think it looks quite good because it's like a pop of colour. And so very carefully just glue it on in position. You can't pin or clip in that position, and then just sew as slowly as you can around. If you decide to do that way to add them as decoration, that's entirely up to you. But it mirrors this shape here on the tab. So I'll show you the front as well. There you go, and that covers up them holes. So once you've sorted out the top, and then obviously then you put your foam interfacing on the back the same as you did for your front. So take one of your slip pocketing fabrics, one of your slip pocket interfacing, and fuse them together. Then take the other one of your slip pocket fabric, turn them right sides together and pin. Sew all the way around, 1/4 inch seam, leaving a gap at the bottom for turning. Right, you've pulled it through, the gap's the other side. You've pulled it through, and then you've pressed it all the way around, pushed out your corners and pressed it all the way around, and then you top stitch it 1/8 of an inch, and then you do the other slip pocket exactly the same way. So now we're on the lining, and you've just done the slip pockets. I actually did an 1/8 of an inch all the way around to close the gap and to give top stitching, but because we're now going to place them on the lining, and you have to sew them in, then I would leave that bit until now if I was you. But what I would do is top stitch across the top, because obviously that's going to be left open, and then now is when you top stitch down the side, across the bottom and at the top. So because I've already done top stitching, what I'm going to do is 1/4 inch. Same with the other side. Right, once you've sewn them on, then you have to decide whether you want to divide them. I'm going to divide one in half and leave the other one whole. You can do little ones to put little compartments in, but if you've got phones and things, I think you need a bigger one, and perhaps a smaller one to drop a bit of change in or something like that. You should still have lines on the top. You could do a large side and a smaller side if you wish, but I'm just going to do down the middle. Again, reinforce the top, start and stop. There you go. So that's the slip pockets done inside, attached to your lining, so that was easy enough. There you go, and cut your trimmings. Cut your ends, I should say, trimmings. If you want to add another zip pocket inside, now's the time to do it, and then obviously you add it above, because then the pocket would sit behind your slip pocket. Just add it to one side, to above your slip pocket, if that's what you wish to do. I'm not going to put another zip on the front, on the inside. Whether you're putting a zip in or not, once you've either put the zip in or decided not to, this is the next step, and this is called the inner trim. Now I've chosen the same fabric as for my outer fabric. It's up to you which way you do it, but I think if you open the bag and look inside, it's nice to see the inside fabric inside. 1/4 inch all the way across. And it does say to press open, but again it's entirely up to you. You can do an 1/8 of an inch to keep that down out of the way, which is probably what I would be, because I've got a thin fabric on the bottom, the cotton. If I had 2 thick fabrics, then I would open it. So 1/8 of an inch all the way across, same as you did the top one. So you've done both the same to both sides. Put the top trim on. So for the next bit, we put both bags front and back together, right sides together, and we sew down the sides across the bottom and up the other side. 1/4 inch seam allowance. Make sure that all the seams, you know, you've got your base and your top stitching at the top, make sure all your seams are together. 1/4 inch seam allowance. Change my bobbin cotton. I've changed my bobbin, and once you've got to this stage, 1/4 inch all around, turn it inside out, just so you can check to make sure that you've put all the sides and the bottom in, in case, because this is a time where if you haven't, then you need to re-sew before you go on to the next stage. So both sides, and make sure that you're more or less on line with your side seams. There's one side. There's the other side, and if not, you'll have to undo. Now that's not brilliant, but then you have to ask yourself, can I live with it? I can. It's not too bad. Just make sure that you've caught everything, all your sides in. Anyway, once you're happy with that, then turn it around the other way. This is a bit, once you're happy that you've caught all your side seams in and you're happy with levelling up all your side seams on the inside, this is a bit where the pattern says draw a square 2 5/8 inch square in each corner. Now I'm going to make mine 3. But the actual pattern has to be 2 5/8. We were talking an 1/8 of an inch off 3 inch 3, so you might as well just, to me, you might as well just round it up. So again, from the edge, you can either do it from your sew line or do it from the edge. I'm going to do mine from the edge because it didn't say sew line, which basically makes it a 2 3/4 square if you're going to do it to your sew line. And then cut. So cut each side. And if it's not wide enough when you've done this, you can always make it wider after. It's best to put little, too little than not enough. What you do then is spread it open. So there's your square. Then you just pull it and spread it across, but then pull it apart like that to make sure that you get that side flat and this side flat, and put your seams together. Have one of your seams going that way and the other seam going that way, so the nest. And then you can either pin or clip. Once you've got your seams right, continue to the edge. Do the other side. Just check your seam again. And then what you do then is sew. A bit flat. So make sure you go forwards and backwards a couple of times on the edge. Reinforce it. 1/4 inch. When you get to your seam, where's my finger gone? I'm sewing without a cover here. I don't know where my cover's gone. What you do exactly the same with the other side, pulling it and turn it around the other way to see if it's the way, if it's how deep as you want it to be. There you go. That's not too bad at all. And push them out, that's it. And that's quite good, that, look. And just double check to make sure that you've got enough room at the base, and that's where you want it to be. Yep, I think that's quite wide enough at the bottom. Lovely. Take your 2 lining pieces, right size together, and you do exactly the same as you did for the outside fabric for the other one, except for when you sew, leave a turning gap at the bottom just there of about 5 or 6 inches. So pin it all together and watch your top 2 seams. So once you've sewn all that together, 1/4 inch seam, make sure that your seam match either side at the top. We've got nothing at the bottom except plain fabric, so you didn't have to worry about that, but leave a turning gap just there. So what we do now is measure 3 inches either side, so we do the same as what we did for the top, the other one. Right, we've put the brakes on at the moment. If you remember this, we need to put the male counterpart on the opposite side, and that, if you think about it, has got to go on before the lining, because you need to hide the inside in there. Then you put the lining on, which will cover that then. So measure it down to where you want it to be. Make sure that both side seams are nice and flat and level. Hold it over and I've put mine about there to give it a little tiny bit of leeway for when the bag's open, or when the bag's probably got something inside it. And then just across, so I'm going to put mine there in my upper section. So once you have your male half of your press-it-on, or whatever you want to call it, this is the time that we put your lining and your fabric together. So you want your lining to be wrong side out, your fabric of your bag to be right side out, and you put your fabric, making sure your handles and that are down, put your fabric inside your lining. And then what you do is tuck everything down, including your handles, make sure they're out of the way. Wherever your side seams, start at your side seams, do one seam one way, one seam another, so that they nest, and clip. And you might find you need lots of clips. Turn it over, do your other side seam, and then you know what you've got in your middle has got to spread out in between, and it should be right. So put your seams together, one seam that way, one seam that way, so that they nest. And then if you pull in between the seams, that should sit. If you followed all the measurements, it should sit spot on, hopefully. But if you've got too much lining, then go back out and just sew a little tiny bit of your lining in to make it fit. You should be able to ease a certain amount in. Do the same the other side, pushing your handles down out the way and your little tab. Sew together around the top edge of the bag. It doesn't say to do more than a quarter. If you want to do a quarter or 3/8 of an inch, that's entirely up to you. I would start at one of your seams, and I'm going to do a quarter. Reinforce your seam sections. So what you do now is turn it inside out, and you have to check to see whether all your seams at the top are straight, the core are done, before you sew the bottom up. I don't think you need to watch me birth in the bag, do you? Once you've pulled your bag through to the other side, you need to press, because you're going to get that seam flat there, because you'll probably need to do some top stitching. So get that seam flat by pressing. So it's been pressed, and if you want to change your colour of cotton for your lining, it all depends what lining you've got in. I'm quite happy with no one's going to see it. You pressed it down. Eighth of an inch across the bottom. tuck it in. Push it all down the bottom. The handles out the way. Take it to your seam line, and again you'll probably need to press this. The idea is to have it your seam dead on the top like that, so we need to press that in before we can top stitch. So I had difficulty pressing, so what I did was I pressed with putting these on. I've had to roll it a lot in between my fingers to get it to go on the top, and then I put, so I'm hoping when I'm sewing I can make it stay where it's supposed to go. So I'm going to start it with one of the edges again. I'm going to put my stitch length on 4, and I'm going to do 1/4 inch. I think it's far better for me to concentrate on where this seam at the top is supposed to be, rather than concentrate on whether it's an 1/8 of an inch or not. Reinforce, start and stop. And put your threads, and there you go. Bag, finito. Let's take you back. There we go. If you bring this round to over there, clip that into place. Hold the bag up, push it all in and out. There you go. Let's hang it up on the mannequin. There you go, a completed bag, the classic tote, and I think that pop of red colour, as I say, that red colour that I'll put on, it was an accident, and so I could put it on to cover something up, and I think that actually works. It just like makes the bag pop a bit. I'm happy with that. It's a Christmas present for my daughter. She would have had it by now, because this will be shown after she opens the presents. And I wish everyone a very Merry Christmas and a Happy New Year.